Again, ladies and gentlemen. So we are continuing our discussion. We are starting 3D Art Unit 3, Introduction to Sculpture. So today we're going to go over briefly what sculpture is and how it's used, how it's made, just some basic stuff. You should have your fill in the blank notes worksheet in front of you. Please make sure that you're paying attention. As always, bolded words are usually important. Okay, so intro to sculpture. So let's start first and foremost with the definition. So sculpture is the art of carving, modeling, welding, or otherwise producing figurative or abstract works of art in 3D, such as relief, intaglio, or in the round. Okay, so let's break this down because that's a really long definition. The art of carving, modeling, welding, or otherwise making figurative or abstract works. So let's start with that first part. Carving, modeling, welding. You are building something. So sculpture is about building something, figurative or abstract works. So that means it's a figure that we represent, that it means something, that we see that it's meant to represent something, or abstract. So not necessarily representing something. It can just be pretty for the sake of pretty. Okay. Creating works in 3 dimensions. So width, length, depth, width, height, depth, whatever you call these dimensions, which is kind of fun. And then relief, intaglio, in the round, we're going to be talking about what those mean. So sculpture is the act of building something, whether it represents something that we understand or if it's abstracted, building a 3-dimensional artwork, which is why this is called 3D art. All right, so when we're talking about sculpture, there's 2 major processes. So we have our additive sculpture, which literally means materials are added in order to create it. And we also have subtractive sculpture, which again means things are cut away or subtracted. Additive sculpture adds material. Subtractive sculpture subtracts materials. All right, so additive sculpture, there's a couple of different methods and things like that we use. We have modeling, we have casting, we have construction. Now, construction comes with a couple other things. For example, assemblage and kinetic sculpture are both constructive methods of creating sculpture. So this is a painted fish pottery. Please check out that date, because that's almost 3,400 years ago, 3,400 years ago. Okay, subtractive sculpture, when things are cut away, usually means that we are carving. We are cutting into and removing materials. So we can carve things like stone, marble, wood, etc. Now, sculpting techniques. These are ways that we make it. We have 4 major ones. Carving, which is a subtractive process. Modeling, which is additive. So we add materials to it. We do this with clay and some other things. Casting is kind of a combined process. It really depends on what we're casting and how we're casting. It's mostly additive, but there's some subtractive components. Construction is an additive process. So we are adding materials. So carving, subtractive, we use things like wood, which is really cool right here. We use marble, which a lot of, ancient Greek and Roman sculptures are marble. Okay. And then just stone in general can be cut into. Modeling, on the other hand, is an additive process. We can use a lot of different materials, clay, and that includes plasticine clays, which are not earth-based, but clay, wax, so like candle wax. This is a wax sculpture, for example. Plaster, which is a liquid that dries up. That would be what this is. And then paper mache, which we do most of in here. We do a lot of paper mache. That's this octopus up here on the wall who looks really, really freaking cool. Let's be honest. Okay. Casting is a molding process. So you create an original sculpture, you create a mold of that original sculpture, and then you pour materials down into that mold to create new sculptures. So there's a lot of different pieces. We have a lot of different ways of making molds. It is a subtractive process when you deal with a lost wax mold, because what that is you actually build your original sculpture out of wax, you mold it, and then you just pour molten bronze right on it, and the wax just disappears. It's usually used for jewelry because, wax is cheap. Construction, additive process, welded, nailed, glued, screwed in. Tools, if you're using tools, it's probably a constructive process. Okay. So we have a couple of different metal sculptures. This would be a version of an abstract. These are figurative, okay? Assemblage is a construction process. That's why we have both of them on the label. Okay. Assemblage is a construction process where you're taking found objects. So you take a whole bunch of objects and put it together. It is very similar to the 2D process of collage, okay, where you're taking a whole bunch of different materials and putting them together to create an artwork. You do the same thing here. You take a whole bunch of different things and put them together to create an artwork. They can be very visually interesting. Usually they have a theme that runs concurrently with those objects that they're using. And then types of sculptures. There's three major types. Relief sculptures, freestanding in the round, they're usually in the round, and kinetics or mobiles, things that move. So relief sculptures are attached to a surface, so they're not fully separated. For example, this Babylonian sculpture is cut into this stone. Okay, these fish are carved into the clay. These horses are coming out from the wall, but they're not fully in the round. You cannot go all the way around them. Same thing with this carving here by Michelangelo. You can't go all the way around it. It's in a frame. We still understand the sculptural and 3D aspects, but it's constrained. Freestanding in the round is what you usually think of when you think of sculptures. You can go all the way around it. You can see it from all sides and all angles. We got all kinds of different styles represented here. They're all really cool. Bronze and clay and wood and steel, there's reasons. A metalhead. All right. Kinetic mobiles are all about motion. So your last project, Unit 2's Elements of Art project, is a kinetic sculpture. You are building something that is supposed to move. Supposed is an important word there. Supposed to move. This is really cool. And if we have a chance, you got to remind me, it's a sand ship. It actually, the wind drives this entire motion. This thing crawls across the sand. Not very fast, but it walks at about human speed. We've seen this mobile. I've shown this one to you in the examples before, but you only saw the red paddles. This is the whole thing. It's huge, huge. This guy designs clocks like this. This whole thing rotates and creates these really intricate designs on the wall. It's so freaking cool. If you remind me, we'll go look it up. But regardless, kinetic mobiles are motion, okay? And that's it. Hopefully you've got all your notes. Talk about it.